election was fantastic.
Beautiful words about the Polish president are spreading around the world. In a special interview for the conservative British station GB News, U.S. President Donald Trump praises Polish President Karol Nawrocki for his uncompromising stance on illegal migrants.
Poland, I think, has done a very good job.
Similar.
Poland's been great, and the man who won the election was fantastic. Didn't even come close. It was one of many people running. And through a friend of his and a friend of mine, a mutual friend, I endorsed him and he won the election.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty big upset, but he's fantastic. He's going to be a great president.
Neither the British Prime Minister, the French President, nor the head of the European Commission can count on such praise from the leader of the world's greatest superpower. The Polish president was singled out.
Są to słowa uznania bardzo istotne.
These words of praise are very important because Trump is a very important leader among world leaders. He is a very important leader of this right-wing, conservative circle of world leaders. So this is a very important, very unifying and inclusive comment by President Trump about President Nawrocki. Plunged into a migration crisis, the British heard that Polish President Karol Nawrocki is setting an example of what policy towards unwanted arrivals from North Africa and the Middle East should look like, as well as various ideological fabrications of left-wing liberal politicians.
Nie chcemy w Polsce nielegalnej imigracji.
We do not want illegal immigration in Poland, and I have fought for this and will continue to fight for it.
Nie będę podpisywał.
I will not sign over regulation on climate issues and green deals. Ladies and gentlemen, all these things that often become the ideological madness of Western Europe. I have also sent a clear message to the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, that as President of Poland, I do not intend to implement migration solutions because our citizens and children must feel safe. Karol Nawrocki fights for the same values as Donald Trump, prioritizing security, the economy, and family. That is why Polish President Karol Nawrocki was received with the highest honors during his visit to the White House. The American administration knows exactly who it is dealing with. A strong alliance with the United States is in Poland's national interest. This is the latest in one of the largest joint U.S.-Panama operations, targeting South American drug gangs in history. 13 tons of cocaine, with a black market value of over $200 million. The drugs were seized on board a tugboat heading for the United States. By entering the U.S. market, the cartel's profits would have exceeded $1 billion. In the coming hours, all those detained on board this vessel, foreign nationals, including citizens of Venezuela, Nicaragua, Colombia, and Ecuador, will be or have already been handed over to the competent judicial authorities. Their legal situation will be clearly defined, and charges of international drug trafficking will be formally brought. The Americans are tightening the noose around drug traffickers. First, a campaign of airstrikes on boats. At the same time, an intelligence operation tracked down the gang's hideouts. Now, as announced by the U.S. Department of War, a military operation aimed directly at the cartels is ready. President Trump ordered action, and the Department of War is delivering. Today, I'm announcing Operation Southern Spear. Led by Joint Task Force Southern Spear and the U.S. Southern Command, this mission defends our homeland, removes narco-terrorists from our hemisphere, and secures our homeland from the drugs that are killing our people. The Western Hemisphere is America's neighborhood, and we will protect it. According to U.S. media and White House sources, official and unofficial meetings have been taking place there for several days with representatives of the administration and officials from South American countries. The U.S. Secretary of State has just met with the foreign ministers of Brazil and Argentina. Officially, the talks were about cooperation. Unofficially, they were a warning about the U.S. military storm approaching South America, the epicenter of which may hit Venezuela.
The region has been quite silent in its criticism of the U.S. In fact, many countries have been supportive of the deployment in the Southern Caribbean. A number of countries have also declared Venezuelan cartels to be foreign terrorist organizations, which looks to Washington as if the region is actually in favor of the pressure campaign against Maduro, as opposed to lending him any kind of diplomatic credibility.
For several weeks now, since the Americans began rapidly increasing their military presence in the Caribbean, the media has been asking the U.S. president whether there will be an invasion. Just a few days ago, Donald Trump insisted that the United States would not strike Venezuela. Today, he neither denies nor confirms this.
I sort of made up my mind, you know. I mean, I can't tell you what it would be, but I sort of made up my mind. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, I can't tell you what it is, but we made a lot of progress with Venezuela in terms of stopping drugs from bringing. Well, we have a Mexico problem. We have a Colombia problem. Really, Colombia, the country. We're doing very well. Drugs coming into our country are greatly slowed, as you can imagine.
Venezuela is preparing for war. This is the clear message from the dictator and his regime in Caracas. The mobilization of the armed forces has been announced, and civilians are undergoing training exercises. Maduro himself is making increasingly hysterical speeches to his compatriots and Venezuela's allies, mainly Russia. We cannot allow, 80 years after the great victory of the Red Army of the Soviet Union, which broke the backbone of the Nazis by defeating them in Berlin, we cannot allow the rise and imposition of a military and colonial trend and allow them to come and kill innocent people. Appeals to the Kremlin are unlikely to help. Russia is too busy with the situation in Ukraine to effectively block a potential U.S. strike. In Venezuela itself, outside the capital, support for Maduro is almost at zero. Maduro knows that in the event of U.S. intervention, his career will be over. And if captured by the Americans, he will face trial for collaborating with gangs and supporting cartels. A massive corruption scandal in the Ukrainian government and the state-owned company Energoatom. 2 ministers have resigned, and suspects linked to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky have been named. The scandal is being described as the biggest in the country's history. It is not even about huge bribes and extortion, but above all about time. A time when some Ukrainian citizens often have no access to electricity and heating, while others illegally earn millions of dollars from it. A year-long investigation by Ukraine's National Anti-Corruption Bureau has revealed irregularities and huge bribes in public procurement, including at the largest energy company, Energoatom. We are talking about millions, tens of millions of dollars, considering all the months during which the investigation was conducted. But at the same time, we do not know the full scale. We do not know how much has actually been documented. The scandal has hit the Ukrainian government hard, primarily the energy minister and the justice minister, who have been suspended, with their resignation announced. The decision to suspend them from office is immediate, as quick as possible. I have asked the Prime Minister of Ukraine to ensure that these ministers resign. I am asking members of parliament to support these resignations. But the scandal also affects the president himself. According to investigators, the organizer of the whole scheme was Timur Mindich, a former business partner of Volodymyr Zelensky. There are many indications that the money also went to former Deputy Prime Minister Oleksiy Chernyshov, a close friend of the Ukrainian president. Especially during wartime, we need to unite somehow, allocate all our money to defense. But here the opposite is happening. Money is being stolen, and strange deals are being made. Among the allegations that have come to light is the extortion of payments from contractors building fortifications to protect energy infrastructure from attacks. These payments were allegedly received by the Minister of Justice and other key ministers and officials. This is obviously not the biggest corruption scandal in Ukraine's history, but it is taking place during a full-scale Russian invasion and involves key players in the Ukrainian government. The scandal is unfolding amid escalating Russian attacks on Ukrainian energy facilities. At the same time, it shows how huge a problem corruption still is in Ukraine. It is particularly outrageous when we look at elderly people who cannot afford to buy any power generators and cannot even use simple oil heaters to keep warm because they cannot afford them. If 3, 5, 10 years ago, those who were already doing this had received normal sentences, prison terms, and had their assets confiscated, then perhaps this would not have happened today. The scandal could have serious consequences for the authorities in Kiev and result in a decline in confidence in the government and the president, not only on the part of Ukrainian society, but also on the part of Ukraine's Western partners, who are supporting it financially in its war against Putin's Russia. The famous Royal Botanic Gardens in southwest London are already prepared for Christmas. As in the previous 12 years, numerous light and laser shows and installations have been prepared to illuminate the nighttime landscape of the gardens.
This year we've got 8 world-exclusive installations as part of the event. That includes bespoke things like the Palm House show behind me. We've put a bridge over the Palm House pond. We have an orchestra made of lights. We've got blooms blowing in the air, mycelium networks reaching out from under tree trunks, and
celebrating its 13th anniversary, the Christmas at Kew exhibition was created to encourage people to visit the gardens during the most peaceful and magical time of the year.
So this is year 13, lucky for some, I think, because I think it's one of the best yet. And it's really changed year after year. It started as a way of how do we get people to come to Kew on the quietest time of the year, when it's dark, it's cold, daylight hours are diminishing. And there were some people that did, kind of basic lit up trees and things that were attracting people. And we thought, how do we amplify this? How do we ramp it up? How do we make it specifically Kew? How do we get people to come here? And what was once the quietest time of year at Kew is now one of the busiest. We have more than 300,000 people that are going to be coming over the next 49 nights.
Kew Gardens, or the colors of the Garden of Light, will be on display until Sunday, January 4th, 2026.